So while the mainstream media obsesses over a fatal mushroom meal, brand new political leaders, and for some reason News Corp is complaining about preferential voting, serious stories tend to get buried and hide through the cracks. So this week on the West Report, we're looking at 3 stories that you guys might have missed. A taxpayer-backed quantum computing project burning cash before it even begins, how the Northern Beaches Hospital put profits ahead of patients, and Donald Trump's new tariff threat that could gut the Australian film industry. My name is Josh, and for the West Report, let's get into it. Welcome to Media Blindspot. So for our first story today, quantum tech gamble turns into roadkill. So remember when Australia was promised a high-tech future powered by AI and quantum computing? Well, turns out that billion-dollar dream has now hit a wall. In 2024, then Industry Minister Ed Husic pushed through a $940 million deal with a little-known US startup, Psi Quantum, to build the world's first large-scale quantum computer right here in Brisbane. It was billed as a game changer for Australian innovation, but the only problem is they haven't built anything yet. While other countries like the UK invested modestly, around $17 million, and spread their bets across multiple ventures, Australia went all in. Now the project is already behind schedule, as government projects usually do, and experts are now doubting that it'll ever deliver. And the government support is vanishing. So Ed Husic is now out, and Queensland is backpedaling. So Canberra is quietly looking for the next exit. The key details of the deal, including what taxpayers actually get in return, were never disclosed. It's a classic case of hype over substance. As us here at Michael West Media revealed, the quantum leap has turned into quantum roadkill. And unless the government pulls the plug soon, this could go down as one of the most expensive tech flops in Australia's history. All paid by you, the taxpayer. So check out the full story by Michael Pascoe on the website if you want to learn more. And while our leaders were busy putting big bets on unproven tech, another grand failed experiment was happening. Privatisation of hospitals in our healthcare system. And next up we have profits versus patients. Hospital privatisation is now on life support. The Northern Beaches Hospital in Sydney was supposed to be a shining example on how privatising public hospitals could deliver better care at a lower cost. But instead, it became a masterclass in corporate greed and public betrayal. Who would have guessed? Over a decade ago, the New South Wales government handed over the brand new hospital to a private operator called Healthscope, backed by global investment giant Brookfield, which is registered via the Cayman Islands. It was sold as a win for efficiency, but the reality, by 2024, Northern Beaches Hospital was charging double the cost per bed compared to the neighbouring public Royal North Shore Hospital. Patients were paying more and receiving less. And now, after mounting complaints, the New South Wales Auditor General launched an investigation. The findings were damning. Emergency department data showed a suspicious surge in discharges just before the 4-hour treatment deadline, which could be a sign of systemic gaming to meet KPIs and trigger performance bonuses. One of the more absurd revelations is that Healthscope reportedly complained there were too many sick people in this bloody hospital. Not verbatim quote, of course. When patient numbers exceeded projections, they demanded more money and got it. Staffing was slashed, legal threats flew, and critical services like mental health and stroke care were scaled back. If you'd like to read the full, in-detailed report, you can find our article on our website written by Michael West. Now, as if we needed another reminder on how vulnerable our public interest can be here in Australia, our final story shifts from hospitals to Hollywood, where an unlikely threat from Donald Trump has put Australia's creative industries in the crosshairs. So our final story today is Trump's tariff threat, a wake-up call for Australian film and TV. So of course, leave it to Donald Trump to endanger Australia's film and television industry with one soundbite. Earlier this month, Trump was campaigning to rejuvenate the US film sector while he announced a 100% tariff on all movies made outside the United States. Now, despite the argument that this is probably physically impossible because they're not a good or a service, this is still something that we want to talk about. So it was basically a tax that would double the cost of any foreign-made film or TV show entering the American market. He framed it as a patriotic move to bring Hollywood jobs back home. And here in Australia, it kind of lands like a punch in the gut. So why is that, right? Because our screen industry here in Australia is deeply tied to Hollywood instead of producing our own content. For years, we've lured US and Hollywood productions with generous tax incentives, paid for by the taxpayers, mind you, in order to subsidise major Hollywood movies being made in our shores. Now, sure, this is great for local investment, but I'd kind of rather see that money being put into our own industry. And it's not like we're short on talent here in Australia as well. We export our actors and talent overseas to make money for foreign media corporations. Take Margot Robbie, take Hugh Jackman. They were in some of the biggest movies last year, but they had to go overseas to do it. So back here in Australia, we've kind of become Hollywood's southern backlot. World-class talents and locations, but on the cheap. So you really haven't heard much about the effects of what this would happen on the Australian economy in the mainstream media, and that's no accident. Corporate media in Australia is deeply tied to the same international giants that dominate our screens. From licensing deals to advertising revenue, their interests lie with big players from the US and not with local media. Seriously though, if you Google this and try and find a story, you'll find it's mostly ABC or The Guardian or even Michael West Media talking about this. Our own filmmakers in Australia rely on US markets to stay viable, and 100% tariff risks cutting off a major artery of our cultural and economic lifeblood. And it exposes how dependent we've become on foreign media. Some of our professionals are calling this a wake-up call. Industry veterans like Robert Connolly say this is a chance to reclaim Australia's cultural sovereignty, to stop chasing Hollywood and invest in our own stories. From Storm Boy to Strictly Ballroom, we've done it before. Heck, Bluey is the biggest cartoon show for kids worldwide. American kids are getting Australian accents from watching our shows produced here by our own ABC. We have the talent. Maybe we should start spending money on it. Now, Trump's film tariffs are still a threat, but it's also a moment of reflection. If we want to have cultural independence here, we need to stop outsourcing our stories and start backing our own. So from a billion-dollar tech fantasy that's quietly falling apart, to a hospital where patient care was sacrificed for corporate bonuses, and to Trump's tariffs threat exposing just how fragile our creative industries really are, this week's stories reveal a deeper pattern: political spin, corporate capture, and a media landscape that rarely holds each other to account. Us here at Michael West Media, we're not here to please shareholders or chase clicks. We're here to follow the money, challenge the narrative, and report on the stories that others won't touch. So some of the stories that we've covered today, you can read about on our website, where we have real journalists doing the hard work to give you the best information possible. If you value this kind of journalism and want to help fund more of it, head over to patreon.com/thewest report or jump onto the website to see how you can support us. My name is Josh, and thank you for watching this new episode of Media Blindspot.